Hi there friends, if you're new to my channel, I'm Nicole, and welcome today for a What I Read This Summer and mini bookshelf tour. First of all, I know my lighting's a little bit weird. I typically rely on natural light and it's later in the day than I typically film, but I wanted to get this video and the next video filmed because I move to London next week, so I am pre-filming stuff because the next week and a half is going to be insane. So I'm trying to think what else. You can't probably see in this lighting because I think it's a little bit dark, but I got my hair cut in color today. I mean, you can tell that it's been cut, but you might not be able to tell how much blonder it is. I also am wearing a t-shirt that literally arrived in the mail today. It says Queen Off Duty. It is by The Laundry Room and a collection designed by Adelaide, who played Princess Mary on Reign, or Queen Mary on Reign. And part of the proceeds go to people in Texas who were affected by Harvey. I don't think it's available anymore. I think it was a limited release thing, but I'm so excited about it. Probably going to make its way into a favorites video soon, so that's what I'm wearing. But basically I realized, because I've been keeping a Twitter thread of what I've read this summer, which I'll link down below, but I realized I've read a ton, especially for me, because I love reading, but I haven't read that much since I was in college. So let's see, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Almost 13 books, which is great, and I wanted to share them with you. I also have gotten several requests to do a bookshelf tour, especially now that I film in front of my bookshelves. So I have that at the end. I just filmed some bits, so hopefully it's fine. But I wanted to show it to you before I leave my room until Christmas. So in any case, let's get cracking. Who says that? I've now acquired a cup of tea. I'm going to put this on the ground. The first book that I read this summer is called Duel with the Devil, the true story of how Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr teamed up to take on America's first sensational murder mystery, by Paul Collins. I actually started this in April. Didn't get around to finishing until this summer, but I really liked it. No one is surprised that I bought this because I like Alexander Hamilton. But it's actually a really fascinating story. It's about this first big sensational murder trial in 1799 in New York City. You learn a lot about the history of the city. I'm reading the back of it as I go. It's been a while. But it's also a really crazy story even now, and I totally have feelings on who I think did it. And even though they're not really sure, but I think I know, and I agree with Alexander Hamilton. But it's a great read, honestly, really narrative. It's not too heavy while you still learn a lot about the Federalists and, what were the other side called? Oh god. The Republicans. I told you it's been a while. But yeah, I think it's a really good book. You learn some cool stuff about Burr and Hamilton, how they worked together not that long before Burr shot Hamilton. But you also learn about their political rivalry even after the war. And overall, I just think this is a great read. Definitely if you're trying to get back into reading history books, which is kind of part of why I read it, this is a great one to start with. The next book that I read is Milk and Honey by, and I don't know how this is said, I should know, it's such a popular book, Rupi Kaur, I want to say, which is a book of poetry with illustrations. I really love the artwork in this, and I know some people might feel like I'm basic for saying this or whatever, but I really enjoyed this book. I really liked some of the poems in it. I felt like it was really inspirational. It was cool because I hadn't read poetry in forever, except the occasional World War I poet. But I just really like them. I have some of them bookmarked, dog-eared pages that are ones that I like to reread. But I'm a big fan of this book. I think it's a quick read. You can get through it fairly fast. And definitely worth a read. Even, if you're not into poetry really, or if you're, not that interested, I think it's even worth reading just to know what everyone's talking about, because people talk about it so often. The next book that I read, I stole from my sister's bookshelf, and it is Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And I have to thank my friend Will for this, because I had texted him about how exciting I am for the Murder on the Orient Express movie, which has Leslie Odom Jr. and Daisy Ridley in it, two of my faves. And he was like, if you're gonna read Agatha Christie, you have to start with And Then There Were None. So I stole it off my sister's bookshelf because she had it but hadn't read it yet. And I read this in 2 hours on a plane. I am obsessed. Bye, Hannah!
Bye, Coley!
Do you wanna come say hi? I was just talking about the book that I stole from you. What would you rate And Then There Were None?
Out of 10, I would rate it probably a 9 or 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
You finally read it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, Hannah's going to
Hi,
dance.
yeah, I'm on my way to dance.
What was I saying before Hannah came in here? I stole it from Hannah. She hadn't read it, but yeah, I read it on a plane in 2 hours. It's fascinating. I'm not really one for mysteries that often unless they're like historical mysteries, which I guess this kind of is because like obviously it was written quite a while ago, but it's fascinating. I got to the end of it and had no idea who did all these murders. I was like, who on earth can it be? I really want to reread it and see if I can tell more from the beginning if I know. But Hannah read it too and loved it. We're trying to get my mom to read it. Highly, highly recommend it. If you've not read it, what are you waiting for? Go read it. And I think one of the next books I'm going to read is actually Murder on the Orient Express because now I'm an Agatha Christie fan and I have to read it before the movie, of course. I also read this book called Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld, which I found out is part of like an actual series between different authors that are retellings of Jane Austen books, and I'd read the retelling of Emma before. But I actually like this. It's kind of like a modern Pride and Prejudice. It's a good one. It's quite a long read actually, but I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite retelling of Pride and Prejudice. My favorite is, my favorite modernization of Pride and Prejudice is the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, hence I have my Everyone Deserves Tea mug right here. I wasn't crazy about how they portrayed Jane Bennet in Eligible, and Jane Bennet is my favorite character, but I really liked the Lizzie. I liked how they changed things up to make it more, you know, modern and applicable. I think it was good. I would give it like a 7 out of 9, but not my favorite Pride and Prejudice retelling, and the length did kind of put me off it. I don't like to read books that are super long unless I feel like they're worth dedicating that amount of time to it, but I will say it was a fairly quick read. The next book that I read is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. It says Creative Living Beyond Fear. And before I read this, I tried to read that You Are a Badass book that everyone was reading and raving about, and I hated it. I felt like it kind of is a better book for someone whose life is already on track, because as someone who was reading it whenever I had graduated college, had no job, felt like I had no direction, I felt really condescended to. And kind of like they were being like, yeah, you suck because of you, which to me is super not motivational. I don't respond well to that. I know some people do, and if you do, that could be a good book for you. For me, it makes me shut down and not care what the person's saying anymore. Oops. But I really liked Big Magic. Back to the point. I thought this was a great book. It's spiritual and about creativity without being kind of like hippie-ish and over the top. If you know what I mean. I really enjoyed it. It honestly inspired me to create more, to live, listen what people think of you, like all that kind of stuff. I really recommend it. I recommend it to creative people. If you're into self-help books, this is actually a really good one. If you're noticing a theme in that I read a lot of nonfiction this summer, you're right. I realized I read only like a handful of novels, one of which was like an Agatha Christie mystery novel. I think there's only like 2 other novels in this whole thing. I don't know what happened. I am going to read some novels next, I think, because I missed them. But I just had a lot of nonfiction books I wanted to read. One of which was Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. Now, I cried a lot reading this book. It hit me hard after Carrie Fisher passing, especially she talks a lot about her mom, she talks a lot about her daughter. Whenever I finished reading this, I sat down and sobbed. Mostly because you really got a sense of how close she and her daughter were from the book, and it made me so sad thinking about how she's passed. But I love Carrie Fisher. I've always loved Carrie Fisher. Before I even associated with her with Princess Leia as a kid, I knew her from When Harry Met Sally, which is one of my mom's favorite films, so I watched it maybe at too young of an age. But I love her so much, and her writing is brilliant. I want to read all of her other memoir collections. But this is just so funny, and like I said, it actually talks a lot too about like her family, like her parents who were both, you know, well, her mom was Debbie Reynolds, so I found that really interesting, and I highly, highly recommend this to anyone. It's short, you can get through it real quick. Really good book. One of my favorite books I read this whole summer. The next book I read was an actual novel. It's Attachments by Rainbow Rowell? Is that how you say her name? I can never remember. But it's basically about this guy who's like an IT guy, but he gets hired at this company to work as basically someone who checks to make sure that people aren't breaking company policy over their emails. And like if an email is flagged because it has like a bad word or, you know, a trigger word or something in it, then he has to read them. Well, he starts reading the correspondence of these 2 other workers, Jennifer and Beth. I was like, is it Jennifer? And so you go between like his point of view, he's like lonely, doesn't really have many friends, kind of not sure how he feels about that his job is like to invade people's privacy basically on behalf of the company, and he kind of starts to have feelings for Beth, and then you go between Beth and Jennifer, who are really good friends who work at the company. I love them both. Jennifer, her part of the story is kind of about her struggles to get pregnant. or her struggle after she gets pregnant, you know, stuff like that with her husband. And Beth is about her boyfriend, and they're like clearly not really a good match, and I'm not going to give away what happens, but it's so good. I really liked it. It kind of reminded me, if you've read Gianvada Fletcher's novels, it reminded me a bit of that. I know that she is known for writing Fangirl, but this is definitely like a more adulty novel. Not that it's like an adult novel, but you know, it's not like a YA book. Nothing against those though. I still read a lot of YA. But yeah, I'm really fond of this book. I probably will read it again. I actually want to keep it. I get rid of a lot of the novels that I read. I either give them to my sister or I donate them to a used bookstore, but this one I will keep to reread. The next thing that I read, which I think kind of counts as reading a book because I did sit down and read it cover to cover, is The Luxe Life by Fleur de Force. I love YouTuber books. You may be able to tell that because there's another one coming in a moment. But I had never read this cover to cover before. I'd like flipped through it. I really enjoyed it. I don't love it as much as I love Tanya, but I think it's a really good book. It's really fun. It's got a lot of lifestyle stuff, some recipes, hair stuff that I really liked. A good like coffee table book. I have a whole stack of like cute YouTuber books where I keep this, so I recommend it. The next book is Wilde Like Me by Louise Pentland. I have a whole review of that up on my blog. I love this book. I'm kind of obsessed with it, if you can't tell already. It is about Robin Wilde, who is a single mom to a cute little girl named Lila, who I wish that I could babysit. I wish that she was real so I could babysit her. And it's kind of about her figuring out single life, starting to date again, raising Lila, being a single mom where, you know, your child also has this other parent who's kind of awkwardly somewhat in your life. It's just so good. Also, it's about like her trying to like take charge of her career and do more, and I love this so much. I want to be friends with Robin Wilde. I cannot wait. Louise is working on a sequel, but I highly recommend this. I kind of want to say, I think this is my favorite book that I read all summer. It's between this and Then There Were None. I love this book so much. Another internet-y book that I read this summer is Jomny Sons, Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too, and I didn't even try to read the B's in the word alien. Another one of my favorites I read this summer. I'm like, how do I say that that's my favorite when I love this one so much? I love it. If you don't know Jomny, you should follow him on Twitter. He's hilarious. And he does these cute little drawings with a story about this alien who comes to Earth to learn about humans. And he learns a lot of lessons along the way. They're all on the cover too. Everything about this book is incredible, including the fact that he thanks his friend Lin-Manuel Miranda in the acknowledgments. But seriously, I highly recommend this book if you've somehow not read it already or not heard of it. I really kind of want to use it as a coloring book. I'm not taking it with me, but whenever I get back like over Christmas, I may start coloring in some of the pages because I've seen some people doing that on Twitter, and I think it's so, so, so cute. But another favorite, I love this. Definitely am going to reread this. Once I move into an apartment after I graduate and I'm back in the States, I think I may keep this out as like a coffee table book because it's just great. I've even thought like it'd be really cute to have people who visit me like sign in the front of it because it's such a lovely book. I love it so much. It also would be a great present for someone. If you know someone who's like super into the internet, super into humor, who really likes books, I think this would be a great gift for them. The next book I read is another history one. This is called A History of the Barricade by Hazan, I think is how you say it. I actually bought this at the Strand in New York City, so I have like a special love for it because of that. But, oh, that's where my bookmark went. Now that I found my bookmark I couldn't find. It is about the barricades of France. So basically it goes through, I want to make sure that I have them right. Battles, or revolts that use barricades in 1588, 1648, 1827, 1830, 1831, 1834, 1832, which you may know as the Les Mis barricades, 1848, 1848 again, another 1848, 1851, and 1871. So it goes through like how barricades were used, how they seem to be so central to Paris. Keep getting interrupted by family. But in any case, I really enjoyed this. It's a fairly short read. Again, I read it on an airplane. But yeah, highly recommend. I thought it was pretty good. I mostly bought it because I'm a huge Les Mis fan and wanting to learn about the actual barricades, and it does talk about that. It even, in one place, I don't know if I can find it, but actually is like, and then they died in the same manner as Enjolras and Grantaire in Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. So like, they fulfilled what I wanted from them. The last book that I finished was Power You're Happy by Lisa Sugar, who's the founder of Pop Sugar, which is like a really cool website if you don't know it. And this is basically her guide to like life. She goes through like fitness, wellness, career stuff, relationship stuff, family, friendship, everything you could want to know. And it's so cool to hear about it from like a fairly young, cool businesswoman with 3 young daughters who's kind of doing it all. I really like her. She doesn't talk down to you at all. She doesn't seem like, oh, well, I'm so great, you should know my advice, whatever. But it's a really fun book. She writes in a really like conversational way. You can see that she runs like one of the earliest kind of blog type websites that she really got going on the whole blogger thing and turned it into a huge empire. And I really admire her as a businesswoman, and this book was so fun to read. I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it. I decided to share my last book with you because I haven't finished it yet. I only have like a little bit left though, and it is the last book I will finish, I'm sure, before I leave for London next week. So it is called Londoners. It's edited by Craig Taylor. It says, "The days and nights of London now, as told by those who love it, hate it, live it, left it, and long for it." So basically, he went and interviewed like tons and tons and tons of people who live in London, have lived in London, want to live in London, and talked to them about their experience of London. So I basically obviously started reading it because I'm moving to London. So I started it after I found out. I also had it at the beach for a long time because it was my book to read on the beach, because I was reading like Wilde Like Me and didn't want to take my really nice hard copy out onto the beach to potentially get sandy. But I have really enjoyed this. If you have lived in London, if you want to live in London, I would actually recommend it because I think it's fun. It's easy to read in small chunks. Like it's the perfect book to read on public transport because they're like these short couple page long personal stories before it moves on to the next one. So that's kind of nice too. But I really like this. So out of everything that I read this summer, I think Wilde Like Me, And Then There Were None, and Jomny Sun's book are probably my favorite 3. I really hope to continue reading as much while I'm in London, though I will be starting War and Peace, so that's going to be a bit of an ordeal, and it's going to take a long chunk of time probably, so it will probably be equally long pages, but not as many books, because that's going to take me about 40 billion years of my life. Not actually, but it is a quite hefty book. If you have any recommendations for books for me, especially anything based on this, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always looking for book recommendations. If you want to be my friend on Goodreads, I'll put my profile down below, so feel free to friend me. And I will also link down below the thread in case you want to see like my cute pictures of all the books. Jomny Sun retweeted my tweet, so did Louise Pentland. That's pretty cool. You can check them out. Otherwise, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video thus far, and now I'm going to do a quick tour of my bookshelves for you because someone requested it in a comment on a prior video. So I have these 2 big large bookshelves in my room. The top of this one holds my American Girl dolls and some stuff. They have a lot of stuff on them right now because I haven't gone through everything and it's kind of piled up between college and my room here, but still a work in progress. The bookshelves are good though. Here I have my Betsy Tacy books. Did anyone else read these? Please let me know if you did because they were my favorite books as a kid. And some other series, like that's my Percy Jackson books back there, Hunger Games, The Selection, and my Harry Potter box set with a little Dory. Moving down a shelf, you get fiction books that I've read. So on the left is all of my history books. On the right, memoirs, a couple more history books, poetry, things of that nature. Going down this area right here with my Pride and Prejudice versus Zombies pop vinyls is my Jane Austen section. So it's got some Jane Austen novels and some books based on Jane Austen novels, like my Lydia Bennet Diaries and Lizzie Bennet Diaries books, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, etc., etc. On this side, I have some of my favorite magazines that I am keeping. Moving down a shelf, this is my favorite nonfiction books. I'm fairly picky about what I keep, but this shelf is actually double shelved. On this side, right here in the front, I have like classics, like Madame Bovary is one of my favorites. All Quiet on the Western Front, another favorite. Anna Karenina, which I love. And then these Barnes & Noble classics right here. And then over here, some of my favorite, more contemporary fiction. Things like Giovanna Fletcher's books, Wilde Like Me by Louise Pentland, and back here, Carrie Hope Fletcher's book on the other side. I also have a lot of books elsewhere in my room, kind of scattered about, so not everything is on the bookshelves, and I have some books from when I was younger under my bed. this is books I haven't read yet. I know the collection is huge. I have a terrible problem for buying books, especially at like used bookstores and book sales. And then people give me books a lot, but definitely going to get around to reading these hopefully some point in the near future, the next few years, something at least. On my other side, this is my Dear America, Dear Canada, and Royal Diary shelf. Yes, I have that many of them. Then there's also some My Stories, which are like the younger companions to them in the back. But I was obsessed with these as a kid. I have almost every one of them, and I still love them. Will occasionally reread one. Moving down a shelf, this is mostly history books, but basically nonfiction that I've not read yet. Some fun things in here, like a book about Alexander Hamilton, like his life advice, something like that. Binge by Tyler Oakley. Some Shakespeare sonnets, which I've only read part of. Book on the history of Twitter. Some Victoria books. Really looking forward to reading these one day. The Citizens by Simon Schama I got my senior year of high school for Christmas, and it's my pride and joy, even though I've not read it all yet. Coming down a shelf, this is kind of tall books. Also Hillary Clinton, the pop final. This Art of Moana and Art of Tangle book. These are some of my pride and joy. I love these. This is baby me. Moving over here, I have a couple of programs that I don't have on my desk over here too. These are all three Miss Saigon ones. One from Broadway, one from whenever I saw it in the West End, and one that my best friend brought me whenever he saw it in the West End because it had a different Chris in it than Alistair Brammer, which I saw. And then this is basically books that I plan on reading next, along with my wand from Ollivanders, which isn't staying here, but it's here for now. This wand chose me in the Ollivander shop, so I had to get it. But this is basically things I'm going to be reading next. You know, this is where I really come to pick a book from. There's the Hamilton biography. But, you know, some great things. I'm really obsessed with this annotated Pride and Prejudice. Here's my brick copy. A Star Wars book. The novel about Zelda Fitzgerald that the TV show is based on. So some great things. The reason it looks so spacey right now is because I already pulled out the books that I'm bringing with me to Scotland. To Scotland? That's not where I'm going. To London. I looked at the Mary Queen of Scots book and said Scotland. But I've already pulled out the books that are coming to London with me. So that's why it looks so sparse, because War and Peace was sitting right here. Alright, I hope you liked my mini bookshelf tour, and I can't remember who left the comment, but I hope that you liked it, and I hope that you saw it. I know I film in front of my bookshelves here, so it makes sense that you would want to see them, but I put it off this long because I recently went through and redid all of my bookshelves. Yes, they're super packed. Yes, I have books under my bed as well, and elsewhere around my room. I hoard books, and people give me books a lot as presents, so that's why I have so many. I also got like 15 at my History Honor Society's book sale that we did, that we like resell used books, and they were cheap books, and I bought a lot. Whoops. But in any case, I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as always, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already to see more book and theater related content, particularly more London related content, as this is the second to last video that I will film in the United States for quite a while. And otherwise, let me know what books you've been reading in the comments. Give me your suggestions. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.